Also, this is K24 This Morning. We're looking at the big stories of the day. Quite a heated debate as well, and we'd love your views as well at K24 TV. We're talking about Sonko, but I'd like us also to move on to an issue that had been discussed last year in Mombasa. The president had a round table, had some journalists there, and of course, was posed to him in terms of the details of the SGR contract. What was the collateral, what were the terms, and he had said that would be availed, I think the following day, the following week. January, it hasn't been seen, and now at a point where if you go to the Daily Nation on page 6, the SGR deal review fails as Chinese firm holds back key information. Moves comes as first 25 billion shilling repayment installment falls due next month. They try to get this controversial contract on the ground just to look at it, but apparently the China Road and Bridge Corporation, the contractor refused to provide key information, termed the contract sensitive and private. Joe, I'll come to you from a legal point of view in terms of contracts and what the country thought. If the president has said this is a document that you can all see, there's nothing we have to hide, then this, even after being taken down for quite a while, should we all have faith in this particular mega project that is the SGR?
Okay, first, just before I go there, there's something I want to quickly comment on from what we were discussing previously. Oliver made the point that Auditor General reports should form part of what we see in court. But the problem with Auditor General reports, there's two major problems that I see. One is that the reports that are being discussed in Parliament now are from about 3 or 4 years ago. So what you have on the table is not current running.
Right.
It is from way before. And the nature of audit reports is that they're audit queries. It's not proof of anything. It's just saying, look here further. Now, if somebody doesn't look there further, you cannot really rely on the Auditor General's report as it is. It just gives you an indication of this is where you might want to start. And in Kenya, what happens is that when those reports come out, because we are behind, people have got time to seal the loopholes and do some patchwork before the report is actually brought to the House and is discussed substantively so that further investigations are ordered or something like that. So that is a failure again in our system. What we're discussing earlier about how people qualify, what we define as this, that is another failure in our system. Auditor General reports should come to a place where it's real time. He releases last year's report. It is discussed this year in Parliament. Prosecutions are, investigations are ordered. By the end of the year, we have investigations. If there is anybody being surcharged, it is done. But the way the system is now, it is skewed to give people time to escape the news or the snare, as it were. So that's one of the problems that we're dealing with. And also, like we were saying off air, unless the prosecution is dead sure about what they're doing, what we're being treated to is a circus. And maybe Dennis's conspiracy theory may have reasoning that somebody somewhere wants to take over Nairobi, and this is what we're witnessing is actually a coup in slow motion. Right. In which case, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, stranger things have happened in this country. Right. But let me leave that there. We come to the SGR report. The thing with the law of contract, you have to realize, is contract depends on negotiations. It is an offer, there's consideration, there is a counter offer, and if we agree and we put our signature on it, it is assumed that everybody on the table understood the contents of the contract and they were happy with it the way it is, and that is why they have accepted it. And if you go with the contract to court, and say that this is the contract that we signed, and who's in breach, this one is in breach, and the court sees and says, okay, but you said you're going to do this. The courts usually do not interfere with contracts. They don't even bother to assist you. They say, look, you knew what you're getting into. That is why you signed on the dotted line. It is crazy that here we have a task force going to ask China Road and Bridge to give them details of the contract, and yet we ourselves are party to the contract. We ought to know what is in our contract. We should be talking to ourselves, asking ourselves, by the way, what did we sign for? What was up in it? If you come to a place where it is now emerging that we may have been outfoxed, maybe that's why the thing is under lock and key, for lack of a better word. It's because maybe when the contents come out of what exactly we signed up for, even the layman will look and wonder, how did you sign that deal? I mean, it's like the story of Jack and the beanstalk. When he came back with the 3 beans, his mother looked at him and like, our old Bess, a whole cow for 3 magic beans? Maybe Kenyans will realize we gave up our whole cow for 3 magic beans. Right. And the beanstalk has been growing and it's stuck at Suswa. And we're wondering, hey, you said this thing was going to get all the way to and get us the goose that lays the golden eggs. Right. Time has come for us to stop with the games, with the shenanigans. This contract is somewhere. We have freedom of information as one of our Bill of Rights. Maybe it is time for us as the Law Society or as to do public interest litigation and force the government to disclose what is our level of indebtedness. 25 billion is not chicken feed. In a country that we cannot afford to even, like now I'm seeing people in flood areas are being told, wait for 3 months, then we look for the money to resettle you. I'm seeing there's 10 acres of tea that has just been also swallowed in mudslides. We're in a place where we could use 25 billion for more urgent needs. For us to be able to put that money in an escrow account waiting to pay the Chinese, we want to see what exactly we signed up for, so that we know our level of indebtedness. And that would inform even any future negotiations, because you cannot have entered into a deal that is so bad. The way Donald Trump says it's a bad deal. We can't enter into a bad deal. We have to come to a place where, are we able to renegotiate these deals? What are the constraints that we are facing? Because that information informs, even as a country, how we move forward.
Oliver, we're looking at a scenario where we had a very passionate a president with a lot of conviction, talking about there's nothing to hide in this contract. I mean, it's above board, everything is clear. In fact, he shall give it to you. But here we are a year later, and we still can't get this information.
Jeff, and I think that President Kenyatta was right. You have to give him some latitude. One, he doesn't participate directly in negotiating those contracts. He maybe is briefed on step-by-step basis, but on knowing where the comma, where the clauses are, is a different ballgame. There are people who go in there and do that. And I have seen some documentation somewhere, which I believe, or I allegedly believe so, that they are part of that Chinese contract. And when you see some of them, I saw somewhere clause number 17, it is a disaster. And I think the reason why it has not been exposed to Kenyans is that Kenyans will see some of these offices for what they are. You cannot negotiate a contract with somebody and he tells you the arbitration of this contract will be at my home and the arbitration will be done by my native language. Then why are we negotiating? Why didn't we just sign the damn thing the way it came? The other thing also that you have to give it to the Chinese is that you have to understand that Chinese were in business. They do not care about your sovereignty, that Kenyans want 25 billion. Theirs is to look at the balance sheet. Does it make profit? Yes, it does. Does it make what we want? Exim Bank and the Chinese, China Road and Bridge is not a company that was created, is not an NGO, a non-governmental organization. It's not a social organization. No, it's not non-profit making. It is profit making. When we understand those business tenets, we realize that one, Kenyans ought to have known from the word go. Two, did we do a feasibility study to know that this thing will break even at this point? The other thing also, although it runs on the face of Kenya as a sovereign nation, is the issue of confidentiality of contracts. As much as we cry about the articles in the Constitution that talk about our right to information, there is a part in international contracts that are extremely confidential. And if you are to disclose them, it has other issues. So as much, and then the other question we need to ask ourselves is why this task force is coming now. Two, we need to ask the Attorney General, because the setup, our legal setup allows that he is the person who signs on behalf of government. Why doesn't the task force just walk into the AG's office and ask him, give us this contract? We know that there are parts of that contract that are confidential. They will not be given out, no matter how much we shout. The other thing why also those contracts will not be available is that one is the issue of our nature of negotiation. We do not have serious negotiators who negotiate in the best interest of the country. It is the issue of using their offices as a factor of production. That is where the 10% are sipped in, other things. You realize what happened when we were assured some contracts whereby insurance was half of the amount that we had borrowed. So that might be the case for this issue. Because when we now ask where is the contract, the other question will be, before you did the contract, there must have been a feasibility study conducted to show that we are entering into this. These are the gains the Kenyan people should gain. Two, we will ask, where is the draft contract? Before you arrived at this, the offer, the counter offer, when you are telling us we improved from point A to point D, where is A, B, C? So those tough questions are what these people are avoiding. But at the end of the day, we must be alive to the fact that there is the issue of confidentiality of contracts, and it is a deep issue.
And not to jump to Mark on this, because we are staring at a scenario where we talk about a contract that has confidentiality in it, but also as a people wondering, okay, fine, we had the port is up as collateral and various things. How do we know what's up for collateral? Is my home been signed away as well? I don't know the details of this. How do you go about this exercise that seems so far is an exercise in futility? We won't see this until the end of his term.
First, we need to understand that the worries that Kenyans have are well-founded. They're well-founded because of how the Chinese have behaved in other countries. We know they've taken over ports of other countries. We know there was talk of them even taking over the police force in other countries. You know, so it's not like we are sitting in a place where we should feel comfortable. If the person who'd signed the contract on the other side was Germany, was the UK, was the United States, you have a bit of comfort because you know those countries have a limit as to how bad they can be. I'm not saying they're good, but you kind of know what their limits are. But this is China, right? And China is an animal that is out to colonize the world using its resources. The other day, I'll give you an example. China decided to buy up all the steel in the world and hoarded it and doubled the price just so they can make a profit. That's how China does business, okay? And they're not playing. Secondly, what Kipchumba said is also true. Kenya is a smaller state than China. And if the Chinese want that document secret, it might be very hard for us to push that contract towards it being quite open, especially if that contract has things that will cause the Kenyan people to reject this project altogether. So we need to understand that there is a diplomatic angle to that as well. China is not a power you play around with. Right? If China decided that it's going to close its market or do things to us market-wise, my friend, we are in trouble, right? We can't even think of going to war in China because the number of soldiers they have, if they showed up in Kenya, they'd have 10 soldiers to every Kenyan, right? So we can't play that game. We are the underdog in the game.
So how do we
all that said, it is unfortunate that we do not have the details of that contract. As a sovereign people, as a people who the Constitution actually envisages that the Treasury should be tasked to give us the level of indebtedness and actually give that documentation to Parliament. The fact that that is in our Constitution is not something we can ignore. In fact, what I would advise them to do is borrow from the Americans. The Americans have a lot of things that are considered secret. But what they do is they select special senators, special MPs, put them in a room and say, so that we are accountable, here is the Chinese contract. You are not allowed to talk about it, but as a representative of the people, look at it and then tell us how to get forward. It cannot be that the only person who's ever seen that contract might not even be our sitting CS of Treasury. The way things are going, I'm sure it's only Thuge and Nani who might know about it. So in as much as we have to consider the international aspects of this thing, as a country, we need to be selfish enough to say that we borrowed on behalf of not only the people who are alive today, but on behalf of future generations. And they deserve to know what exactly is at stake. When our business people are saying we don't want to put goods on SGR, they need to understand that what are they putting at risk. You understand? If our port is at risk or not, we need to know. And that's why it needs to be disclosed. So moving forward, the government, my advice, create a special committee of Parliament which sign all those secrecy things that you need signed, and then let them look at the thing and give the Kenyan people confidence concerning those contracts.
Dennis, let me come to you because from the point of view that the president had that this contract can be viewed, there's nothing we have to hide. At that particular point, was he being less than honest, saying something that he knew you people would never see? This contract is something that you guys won't see. You'll set up a task force, you'll try and get the details, but as the company says here, it's sensitive and private. Is that what was being set up even at that particular round table that he had last year?
I think the president was being honest about a thing he knew that he can't do, because then it will put him in a very precarious position, even in terms of his management style. And I think that the thing about, and we call it public procurement. So I don't believe, and I don't sign to the school of thought, that there has to be anything private about a public procurement system, because you're buying on behalf of institutions to the public. If you're buying something for me, then by no means shall it be private. It means that even the public participation process has to be open. You can't have a government procuring on behalf of its nation, yet only a few people know and about it. And that brings the second question in play about the sovereignty of this country, because that kind of contract has brought that into question. The fact that we have to give our assets a sovereign guarantee, the fact that it's another country that has critical information about us, you know, our money and whatever it is. And the other thing, of course, regarding that contract is the fact that it's put us in a dire place, even in terms of our debt. And I think the central bank governor has wailed to the top of his voices and all that. And even the fact that we are paying debt is that we know even in the contracting of itself, there's budget for corruption in there, that we're actually financing the deeds, the acts, and the lifestyle of people that we don't even know about. And whether really this is an asset that was important to our microeconomics, or it was basically something that is of a hard legacy to someone. So, and this brings then the other question of public trust of the government in terms of us, because the SGR project, I don't think there's any other project that has demeaned and has brought into foreplay public trust into President Kenyatta's government. Whenever you speak about corruption, at the end of the day, the SGR shows up, and you can't run away from it. Mm-hmm. And even if you look at the anger from the public, it is then directed to some of those mega projects that the public think that this was for personal benefit. And also the other question is that China's style of business hasn't benefited our local businesses at all. You know, the servicing of some of those things and all that, and also some grave human resource aspects of the workers' disrespect, the human resource rights and all that. There just has been abuse that our local businesses actually, it has not benefited the microeconomics of this country. It hasn't benefited the procurement from SMEs and all that. Yet the SMEs in this country are actually dying off, and they contribute to half of our GDP. And then the other bit is then silence from Parliament on this matter. And I think I want to say something that Joyce said, that Parliament does audits 4 years away. I think we were here with Honorable Kioni, who said they corrected that and they audit all files live today. And I think that's not reported. And something that's not reported, then it doesn't seem like Parliament is doing. But if you dig into the Hansard, the reports are there, they are all live, they are current, and this is something that we can follow about. But I think we tend to follow a lot of these corruption cases from the media, and then we have trusted the media as in the reporting channel, and we have abjugated our responsibility as Kenyans to dig for these files and you know, project to project. So the SGR project itself is a big cancerous wound to the government of President Kenyatta. And I doubt whether it will receive any healing whatsoever. And I think the healing that has to be there has to be an admittance that, you know what, there are some places that we went wrong, and I, as the president, am ready to prosecute the institutions that did error. And I'm calling, as a president, I'm calling for an audit of the entire process, and I want this process to be made known to you. Because even when he leaves office, this thing will hunt and chase him like nothing you've ever seen. And we've seen the issues about, you know, the Land Commission and thereabout. Their integrity was firmly tied into this thing. So this is something that will never go away from him until he addresses it while in office.
Oliver, this is your first time here. I just wanted to find out, in terms of a business case, the SGR, do you think at the initial stage it was viable and we lost the plot somewhere along, you know, dotting the I's and crossing the T's? Now we're at Suswa saying it's the SGR to nowhere.
Jeff, I think we are losing the point. when we mix the issues of viability of SGR and the issues of us questioning the contract, those are two independent variables. One, from where I sit and what we must actually get it out is that SGR is a business model. It should be allowed to survive on its own. We should not have initiatives or something or bearing other businesses. If today I want to transport my cargo from Mombasa, I should look for that means which is in terms of business, and when I look at my balance sheet, it makes sense to me. If using the road is what makes sense to me, let us give Kenyans options. By forcing everybody to SGR is a bad thing. But we cannot, and I disagree with my friend Dennis, that we cannot hold President Uhuru Kenyatta's 10-year term to just an SGR. There are several other things that we need to look up into. And also we need to know that Swazuri and Co are in court because of the SGR. So it means that there's something happening. Okay. But the other thing that now we must ask ourselves, the SGR has been a success in terms of being used as a mode of transport, of carrying Joy, Mark Bichachi, myself, and other people to Mombasa. Whether that will make it break even, I don't know. Okay. I'm not sure if it is a sustainable way by paying 1,000 to transport us to Mombasa, but it has made some convenient ways of us getting to Mombasa. It has made it good use. Maybe the bad might outweigh the good, but it has some good use to it.
Okay, fine.
There's something I don't want us to lose sight of. Part of the reason why we embarked on this project is because it was supposed to be not just servicing Kenya, but servicing the region. And about, was it 2 days ago, 3 days ago, there was the announcement that the Northern Corridor is doing their own SGR deal. And Tanzania has signed already with DRC and with Burundi. And if they do that, then it means there's some business that was going to come to the Mombasa port to use our SGR that now will not be used. Part of the reason why the SGR has been super expensive is the issue of land compensation. We've had that discussion around this table before, where in Kenya, our land is absolutely ridiculous. Trying to buy land in Muthaiga is more expensive than buying land in Manhattan. Never mind that Manhattan is not even proper land. I mean, New York is built on rubbish, and rubbish became land, and now land is more, and it's an island. But in Nairobi, our land just seems to escalate to levels where you're wondering, you buy land at that price, how are you going to make your money back? It's absolutely ridiculous how we have outpriced ourselves out of our own market. So we need to go back, like Oliver is saying, to the Land Commission, National Land Commission. How did we arrive at a place where the compensation was so high that it drove the cost of the SGR so high that we got to a place where now we've sort of priced ourselves out of the market? How did we allow, not allow basically, but let this business opportunity with our neighbors escape us? Because the money that has been fronted so far by Exim ought to have ideally gotten us all the way to Malaba if we used our resources prudently. But we were lavish, and we imagined that the coffers would be open forever. And now we've gotten to Suswa, and we are stuck. And so it's put us in a difficult position. But the final point I want to underscore is that yesterday the president was at the ACP, and he did say that about a month ago, we started our quest for a non-permanent seat on the UN Security Council. Now, China is one of the permanent members on the Security Council. One veto from China, this story is over. We've already rolled out our elaborate manifesto and our elaborate campaign to get us a non-permanent seat. We are not going to jeopardize that by having a little bit of an indiscretion called revealing what is in our contract. Because if you really think about it, if we really want a permanent seat, we are not going to be rubbing China the wrong way right now. So are we going to see this deal, what it says and what it does not say? We are not going to see it. Is it viable or non-viable? It is completely non-viable. Are we at a place where there are questions that we need to ask? If we get the non-permanent seat, we have to wait for 2 years before we can ask those questions. Right. But the thing I do agree with Dennis, this is one of those things that will be part of the Uhuru Kenyatta legacy. He's not going to run away from this one because it was negotiated in his time. And even if he's not the one who goes to the negotiating table, as the chief executive of the country, it is your name that goes in, it's you who did this. Right. Because you were in charge of everybody who did. Right. And if you go to a place where your people did something that you did not know, you are still vicariously liable because you are their boss. So this notion of it wasn't the president who negotiated, so probably he should fire those who did. No, we need to come to a place where you take responsibility because the buck stops with you.
Okay, we have a couple of tweets that I want to look at before we wind up. Ken Atinda saying, we are totally not serious in this nation. How I wish we get some kind of a military president to sharpen everything. Kenya is an undeveloped country but pays leaders who do a lot of nothing, and we pay them more than leaders of countries like Britain, Japan, US, etc. Honorable Steve Khaemba, how would you enforce Chapter 6 of the Constitution or an amendment to the Constitution to bar such cases in the future? God save Kenya on that particular front. And then you have another tweet coming in, Frank Mengi, I think, backing what the theory that Mark said you had in terms of the cartels and the systems. He says corruption fights back. Corruption can be backed by state machinery or state officers through impunity as well. So that's what stands on that particular one. Let's look at one more tweet right there. Eric Yamo, money, 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 cash, 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 chapa, chapa, chapa. That's all that these people want. Our leaders sing to the highest bidder. That's what we voted in. Sa ndio tunavunia hiyo. And then there's one who just put a picture of a pack of hyenas and wrote our leaders. Okay, that's where we leave it as far as our newspaper review is concerned this morning. Mark Bichachi wants it to go for 3 hours. Unfortunately, we can't do that this Tuesday, but I have to thank them for making time this morning. Dennis Tumbi, thank you so much for time this morning. Mark Bichachi, asante sana again for making time this morning as well. Oliver Karori as well. First time, thank you so much for your contribution on the show. And of course, Joy Mdivo, as always, many thanks for making time. Asante sana. Your views continue. The conversation can continue online at K24 TV. You can also SMS us on 21222. We take a break. After that, we get interactive. Good morning.